Okay, I think that concludes all our speakers concerning the Kentucky School for the Blind, so I'm going to move to our next speaker, and that is Secretary Heiner. Again, thank you for being with us today. Look forward to seeing you in February. Jane Dewey. And Jane Dewey is with KCAE, which is the Kentucky Council for Arts Education. Is that correct?
They're very, very close. I'm the facilitator for the Kentucky Coalition for Arts Education.
All right,
but yes, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We're speaking to you today about the structures that allow rigorous quality arts programs to exist, including visual and performing arts pathways. In Kentucky, career pathways have been developed leading to careers in bricklaying, engineering design, pre-law studies, and many more. Some of these pathways seem to be more career-oriented, some more college-oriented, but they're all part of the valid COSA and industry certifications for 2015-16. As required by CTE definition, each career pathway culminates with the required industry-recognized credential or certificate at the post-secondary level or an associate or baccalaureate degree. The visual and performing arts pathways were another step towards addressing the needs of all students, and they met that CTE definition of career pathway. Since the announcement that the visual and performing arts pathways weren't valid, in part due to a lack of industry certification and endorsement, two professional arts, performing arts unions, Actors Equity and the American Federation of Musicians, have fully endorsed the pathways, and I have letters if you'd like to see those. At the October 7th, 2014 KBE meeting, the board discussed anecdotal evidence of how schools were counseling students into career pathways, even at the expense of the students' expressed interest. Then Commissioner Holliday and Ken Stroud discussed how the development of the arts career pathways would help with those situations. A recent teacher survey asking about the impact of the removal of the arts pathways revealed that schools are canceling arts and music classes and taking students out of arts classes to complete other pathways. A quote from a teacher: "My principal told an arts teacher in our school, 'Hey, I'm going to have to pull student A from your ensemble class so that I can get them career ready by the end of the year.'" And this statement from a high school drama and choir student. The arts are not only something that affects a handful of students, it affects over 150 music students and 75 plus art students in my school. You can put any program under a microscope and find flaws. In the early childhood education pathway, you can't just graduate and go directly into teaching a preschool class at a public school. When you take away the arts pathway, you take away the dreams of so many small town students. And these are just two of many similar statements that we've heard from students and educators. I'll leave you with this quote from the parent of a child who attended the Governor's School for the Arts in 2015. Kelly's GSA experience showed him that he could make a career out of what he loved, that there were more options than he ever thought possible to build his life around music. And it bothers me immensely that our state education department would be so discouraging to our students who are gifted in the arts. We all want strong arts education programs with access for all students. Given that that other career pathways also prepare students for college, that the pathways are being validated by professional industry organization, and that the arts are areas that students want to study, please consider reviewing their place in Kentucky's college and career readiness accountability system.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Dewey? Jane, thank you for being with us today.
And I'll send these around.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tom Stites, wishes to speak with us regarding the arts pathways. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. I'm coordinator of Fine Arts, Owensboro Independent Schools, and I'm here to address the Fast 5 announcements that halted the release of the capstone assessments for our college and career arts pathways. Posted on our own KDE College and Technical website are documents listing visual and performing arts career pathways endorsed by the National Association of CTE Directors. Our question: why are pathways endorsed by the National CTE Office and designed within our state not moving forward? As of October 2013, the Kentucky CTE Office had taken absolutely no action to create arts pathways. The Arts Advisory Council solicited the support of Commissioner Holliday to move forward with the development of these pathways. He assigned KDE staff and then directed that there be a 2-year window to full implementation. Combining the efforts of arts professionals and arts educators, we were able to replicate the rigor of industry standard evaluation based upon time-honored industry practices for each of the visual and performing arts. All were approved and ready to move forward under CTE leadership this summer. A pilot assessment project was designed to vet the capstone evaluation system with a very limited pool of students selected by their teachers as future arts career prospects. These high-achieving students scored well, no surprise, but incomplete submissions were not passed. I know from my own district, we spent 15 students capstones in. They all passed, but they are all now going to college as arts majors and minors with scholarship support. I don't call that failure, I call that success. The perception the pilot failed is simply not accurate. Following the Commissioner's Fast 5 memo, we reached out to the Kentucky arts industry, shared the pathways capstones, and requested a response. I believe you all have letters to that effect from the music industry and hopefully from the theater industry as well. We have other industry endorsements that are in process at this point. An urgent problem exists in Kentucky schools triggered by the Fast 5 memo. Our current school accountability program provides extra points for students who are both college and career ready. This incentivizes school administrators to place students in CTE career pathways, even when these pathways do not meet student interest. This is not anecdotal. It's occurring now and will accelerate over the next 2 years as schools struggle to increase their scores. If we release the arts pathway capstones, we allow students to select amongst programs based upon their personal interest, merit, and relevance. I applaud Dr. Pruitt's commitment to simplifying the accountability system, and I hope the Every Student Succeeds Act gives us the chance to address this quickly. If we can suspend the bonus half-point incentive until this new system is in place, we'll halt the damage to high school students' experiences. Allowing the arts pathways capstones to be released will be a positive decision for our students and our schools. Thank you for your time.
Extra points for precision.
I'm a musician. I know time.
Questions for Mr. Stites?
I just have a quick question. You mentioned your concerns with the extra point. Are they the same as Mary Gwynn had mentioned earlier, or?
Well, I think it's best if we let some other people speak on that because it's not just my opinion. Our own SCAC, School Curriculum Assessment and Accountability Council, September 16th, 2014, recommended rewarding excellence in either college or career pathways, that the current bonus of 0.5 for students that are college and career technical ready could be considered for removal. That's from the meeting minutes. Also, our Green River Regional Educational Cooperative has written a letter that is supportive of the Unbridled Learning's incentive to create college and career-ready environment, but we'd like to propose that the point system under school accountability be suspended temporarily to eliminate the chances of students feeling obligated to participate in programs which they may hold little or no interest in their lives. The 0.5 bonus system has, in your all's words, the unintended consequence of removing students from valued programs in our schools. A suspension of the bonus system would give us all time to work towards a much better solution.
Thank you, Mr. Stites. Our next speaker is John Stroud with the Kentucky Music Educators Association.
That is correct. Good morning.
Welcome back.
Indeed. I have been here before. Thank you, Mr. Markham. So I serve as the executive director of the Kentucky Music Educators Association. In June 2011, this board discussed career readiness, and Mr. Markham moved to give extra credit to schools for students who are both college and career ready. And Bridget Ramsey was concerned that this action would crowd out things not in the accountability model and might have districts encourage students to go down the career path at the expense of others. That's a quote from the minutes. Mr. Markham said technical education is just as important as college prep, and Ms. Ramsey moved to table. But that was defeated 4-5, so the original motion passed 7-1 with an abstention. So the schools now get an extra credit for each student who is college and career ready. Then in October 2014, and by then most of you were on this board, the board saw a proposal to remove the half bonus point from the system, and Dr. Holliday said the department had heard from teachers about students being pulled from their classes to meet career pathway requirements. However, he urged the board not to act on the proposal to remove the bonus point 5, since the upcoming arts career pathway would resolve the problem of students being pulled from arts classes. Therefore, no motion was made. However, the promised arts pathway has recently been removed from consideration as a career pathway eligible for the bonus half point. So last Thursday, and get your pencils, I sent 2 questions to the high school music teachers, people I have access to in Kentucky Public Schools. There are 202 high schools in the state, and I heard back from 94 schools. And I asked these 2 questions. Are students in your high school required to enroll in a career pathway? 49 of the 94 said yes, and 44 said no. I said, are students in your high school required to be career ready to graduate? 30 said yes, and 64 said no. So recently, George Wilson, the executive director of the Green River Education Cooperative, wrote to Dr. Pruitt, as Tom Stites just said, asking the CCR point system be suspended temporarily to eliminate the chances of students feeling obligated to participate in programs with which they may hold little or no interest. Now, the Association for CTE has a stated goal that every student should graduate high school, college, and career ready, both. That's their goal. So there's actually a movement kind of in opposition to what I'm saying, but schools' incentivization to require students to leave arts programs for other electives should come to a halt, in my view. Thanks for your time.
Questions for Mr. Stroud? Thank you, John.
Is there, well, yeah.
Yeah, Sam?
Just sort of slow on the formulations. Is there any other alternative beyond removing the half point?
As long as the half point is in place, it's like a bowl of candy on the table, you know, it's there. And I think it blossomed to more than anyone anticipated. One of the unintended consequences that wasn't a problem for the arts community, but maybe a problem for the Department of Education, was that schools, which are actually doing pretty well on their accountability, looking for ways to do it, but determined they would not take this step of requiring students to be career ready as well as college ready. Bowling Green High School is a good example. They no, we're not going to do that. But with a great arts program in that school, they saw a chance to enroll lots of those kids in the arts pathway because they were pretty much ready for it already. I think it turned into huge numbers that were going to have to do this, and might have cost as much as $600,000, kind of our rough estimate on what it might have cost the department to score all those portfolios. So putting the arts pathway in, combined with the incentive to enroll kids in the arts pathway for the extra 0.5, I think is a juggernaut. I think the 0.5 for this matter is the root of all evil, so to speak.
Well, as another solution to reinstitute the pathway.
I think if you do that, you'll have the juggernaut at the end. It'll be pretty hard to assess them. That's my guess. I think Department KDE folks could maybe. I've not heard anybody bring that up, but just trying to think between the lines, is that the issue? But I think as long as the 0.5 incentivization is there, schools, the numbers of schools, and this is not, this is just asking the music teachers. They're not the guidance counselors, but that's what I'm getting. There are a lot of schools doing this because they're desperate for some more accountability points, so they're asking these otherwise college-bound kids to do a career pathway too, which is an elective in place of the electives they would elect, given their own choice.
Mr. Pruitt, like, provide some clarification.
Yeah, just to be clear, again, to separate pathways from career-ready designation and accountability. The pathways are still there. People can still teach 4 years of band, 4 years of whatever. But what we backed off on was the career-ready designation, which is what activates the 0.5. So it's I want to be clear that the department was not saying to people, do not teach the visual and performing arts. It was that to designate students as career ready and thereby giving districts that extra 0.5 was not actually being honest with the kids.
Right, and so my question to you, not for you to answer, but for you to consider, is whether or not the adverse effects that are being described today, whether those effects are worse or less bad than the effects of taking away the half point for those pathways. And it seems to me that's a fair question in light of what we're hearing.
Yeah, I think the other somewhat mitigating issue is assuming ESSA gets authorized this week, it also will be interesting to see what they tell us to do in the interim between now and when it has to be actually in place. We have heard that it may become this could be a longer conversation, so I'll say it and we can move on, but it may be that actually puts us into somewhat of a holding pattern in that, we still have to report assessment scores, but we're not sure what we're going to have to do with actually designating schools as priority and all that. So some of it is a little bit, I think all this is stuff we need to take into account, but some of that may actually be taken out of our hands by the fact that the new law may actually put us into, for lack of a better word, a hold harmless for the next year, which actually would negate the 0.5 anyway.
Mr. Hinkle, I think that if the 0.5 were removed, no students would be harmed.
And I'll just say, before we close on, we have one other speaker, since I'm the one that made the motion originally, you're correct about the 0.5. At least I'm open for discussion on that matter. I think, sometimes there are unintended consequences that you just can't foresee, and there's been several things that have happened since that was included that I certainly didn't intend to happen. Been a strong advocate of the arts throughout my career, so I would just say that, and that probably does need to be a part of our discussion going forward.
Thanks for saying that.
And I will let everybody know that ESSA passed the Senate 85-12, so it's headed to the President's desk.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is it Tanya or Tanya Bromley? She is from KMEA and also KCAE. KCAE. Okay. Welcome. You've been with us before, too. Welcome back, Tanya.
Thank you very much. My remarks are a little bit different today, given the announcement of program reviews and also given the change of leadership at KDE. So I would like to direct those in that direction. Having served on several local, national, even international boards and committees, I've learned two important principles about decision making. The first is to value the power of collective wisdom. And the second is to, as Stephen Covey would say, seek first to understand. To gather the most accurate information possible and attempt to see that issue from as many perspectives as possible. It often makes for arduous decision-making, but it makes for good decision-making. In line with those principles, the KDE has 19 advisory groups currently listed on the advisory committee page. In reality, there are 20. As Commissioner Holliday directed the reorganization of the School Arts Advisory Committee in 2012. The membership of that council was carefully crafted to reflect the collective thinking of all stakeholders in arts education, including parents, administrators, and representatives from the arts community. Commissioner Holliday directed that the council should operate as any other council and that it should provide assistance and guidance to the department in matters of arts education. And the council has met regularly since 2012 and has provided some valuable recommendations, pathways being one of them. In 2009, in the interim between leadership, this council suffered a period of inactivity during one of the most critical stages of developing program reviews. We find ourselves once again experiencing a change of leadership. and therefore we believe it appropriate to request that the Commissioner and the KBE confirm the importance of this advisory group, that it doesn't get lost in from institutional memory, and direct that it be included on the KDE webpage and ensure that it continues to receive the scheduling and funding for meetings as other advisory groups. We believe that we can provide that extra amount of information that you need. Finally, Commissioner Pruitt announced this past Friday his appointment of a task force to address recent concerns in program reviews. We wholeheartedly support this initiative and agree after 3 years it's time to review and refine the process and the tools. We can only speak to the arts program reviews, but we offer 4 critical goals that are essential in refining the effectiveness and fairness of these reviews. First, we need to look to easier program review models in order to improve the reliability and facilitate data gathering. There are models available, and we know where they are. The reporting protocol needs to be made easier. It's just too time-consuming and too staff labor intensive. 3, as long as there's a high-stakes accountability system, evidence that schools are maintaining access to the arts programs must be part of the accountability score. This should be a non-negotiable. And finally, there must be verifiable integrity in the reporting of reviews. A manageable, credible auditing system must be developed, funded, and implemented. The arts community, working with administrators and KDE, can make the arts program reviews better, and we offer our support in that regard.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. Okay, I think that concludes everyone that wanted to speak to the board today, and we want to thank all of you for being with us today, and I hope everyone feels like they had a full opportunity to address their concerns before the board. All right. With that, I'm going to move to agenda item 13. We're going to do agenda item 13 and 14.